Hey guys, welcome back to Engineers Hub. Today in this video, you can learn to create NodeJS JWT Authentication for login and sign up with Bcrypt password hashing. So let's start with creating a new folder in VS Code. Let's give the name of our file to login system. First, you need to run npm init on the terminal. It will simply create the package.json for our node project. And here you can see the name of our project. It's also specifying main to index.js. Let's create our index.js file. We also should install Express here. Now let's import Express and make an instance of it. Here I am gonna define a get HTTP route just to check the server on the browser. Let's define port 3000. This line starts the server and establishes the connection on port 3000. We can give message after the server is started that server is running on this port. If I run this project using nodemon, then we can see this console. And we also have set up a route above for HTTP GET request to the root URL. So in this case, if we run localhost 3000 on the browser, you can see message server is running, which is coming from this response. After this, we can proceed on the Mongoose configuration. So let me import Mongoose. And you can see we are facing the error which says can't find Mongoose. We have to npm install it. Now we can open our MongoDB at last. And before connecting it to Node.js, you should first create your cluster and database. I had also made a video on how you can create database in MongoDB at last. I'm gonna provide the link of that video on my description below. I had completed up to making the network accessible by maintaining the status active. So do watch that video to come to this part. Now here you need to click on connect. You can proceed on connecting to your driver. You need to use this connection string. Here you can also see it's saying to replace password with your actual database password. I had also told you to remember the password of the database user while creating database in the Atlas. So let's copy this and configure it in backend. I will store it here. It is systematic approach to store this in .env file. So let's create our .env file for it. In my .env, I'll simply paste inside this div URI. So I'm simply gonna use my password. You also need to replace with your saved password while creating database user. After that, in order to access it, we need to first install .env. So the purpose of .env is to load environment variables from a env file into process.env in Node.js applications. Let's require .env here and configure it. Now let's access it here, that is process.env.dvuri, and we can remove this part. Now we can connect this to Mongoose. For that we can pass dv here, and to ensure the compatibility with the latest MongoDB drivers, we can use the options use new URL parcel, use unified topology, and use create index. And for the success we can give console connected to MongoDB. Let's also include our server part here. For the error you can use catch method. If I start this project, you can see you are facing error, that is option use created index is not supported. So we can simply remove this. Now let's save this. Now you can see we are successfully connected to MongoDB. Now we can proceed on creating schema. So let's create a folder named model, and inside it I'm gonna create user schema.js. Let me import Mongoose here. Here I am also importing validator, which can be useful for validation of email. In Mongoose schema, we will define the structure of our document. Since we are doing for sign up, we can create the schema for username, email and password. We can declare type and required for username. I'm also gonna add unique for the email here, and we can also check for the email validation. And for the password, I'm simply gonna add minimum length requirement, which I'm gonna give to 6. I'm also gonna add here validation message in case of this field not being provided. Let's include that for password too. So now I'm gonna design the middleware here to hash the user's password. This will help to hash the user's password before saving the user document to the database. We can also require Bcrypt here, which we will be using for hashing password. Before that, we need to first npm install Bcrypt. A unique salt is generated using Bcrypt generate salt. The main purpose of using salt here is to ensure that even identical passwords produce different hashes. So this will help to hash our password. So this function will be executed before our document is saved to the database. Finally, next middleware is called, and after that it will simply save the user object to the MongoDB database. This line creates a collection named users based on the schema. Finally, let's export it. Now let me go back to my index. We need to use this middleware for parsing JSON here. So this middleware passes incoming JSON request and makes the parsed data available in request.body. Now we can create another folder named controller, and inside it let's create file named authcontroller.js. Here we can set up routes and functionality. First we should import our user schema. For creating user, we can use user.create. This method creates a new user in the database using data provided in the request body. And for implementing authentication, we can generate token here. For that, simply use JWT, which are stateless. We need to import JWT from JSON Web Token. So let's first install JSON Web Token. Before that, let me also check if the username email is already present or not. For that, I can use find one method. If the email already exists, I'm going to give the status 400 with the message that email already exists. So here in the payload, I will store the user's ID and the user email. And let's sign it with the secret key. I'm just gonna give a random constant secret key for now. In my .env, I will include its name as login auth. So inside this JWT secret, I'll store its value. And here I will include that env secret key. Finally, I'm gonna send the response with status 201. And here it should be ID instead of user since we are retrieving ID here. Let's send our response of our field along with the token. And inside the catch block, we can send message of sign up failed. Now you can proceed for the login function. Let's extract email and password from the request body. We can also find the existing email using find one method. We need to use Bcrypt again, so let's import Bcrypt in this controller. And for the password, we need to compare the provided password with the stored hash password. We can proceed for token in case the password is matched. So this approach would be same as for the sign up process. And in the catch block, we can simply provide message login is failed. And finally, we can send the response as above. In this else block, we can give 400 for incorrect password. And if no email is found, then we can give this message. Finally, we can export these two functions. For setting up route to handle this request, we can create folder named routes. Inside this, let's create a file auth.js. We can import router from the express package. And let's also import our create user from the controller. Now let's define our post method of this create user function. We have included the path as signup. We also need to include our login user here. We can give its path to login. So back in our index.js, let's import these created routes too. And here we need to use auth routes. Let me run my project. Now we can perform this post request in Postman. And if you are new to Postman, you can watch my video on how you can use and install the Postman. And we need to use localhost 3000. And we have given route path to sign up. And this request should be changed to post. So in the body, we should change this to raw. And it should also be JSON. And let's use our field in JSON format in our body. And let's include random email and password. Currently, I will provide the password less than 6 digit. You can see we will get the error if it doesn't validate with our schema. So let's make the password more than 6 digit and let me again click on send. And below you can finally see our response. So we have response with the ID, email and password. You can also see the password being hashed and also the JWT token for this ID. If I go back to my Atlas and let's click on browse collection. Inside the users, we can see the result, that is our data with an unique ID in the form of collections. Again here, if I try to create new user with the same email, we will not get success response and get a message of email already exists. So email should also be unique. You can see here again success response for unique email and will also be added to Atlas database. Now let's proceed with login. We have set the route to login. And for login, we don't need username. If I enter wrong email, we won't be authorized and you can see the error message. If I use incorrect password also, we will get the message incorrect password. So to validate, we need correct credential. So if we use correct email and password here, you can see we get the success response. This means we will be authorized with the correct credential used while sign up process. So that was all for the JWT authentication. In this video, we have successfully created NodeJS JWT authentication for login and sign up along with the Bcrypt password hashing. Thank you guys for watching this video.